Okay, so we'll look at how to animate size, and then I'm going to show you how to save this as a movie. So size, by now you could probably guess what it is that we're going to do. We're going to open a new Blender window. We're going to take its frame 1. We're going to take this and we're going to insert a key by hitting I under scale. Then we're going to do S. Actually, this is important. If you scale it first and then go to a new keyframe, it's going to go back. Okay, because you've locked it at 1, and then you can't scale it and then move forward. You have to move forward and then scale it. And that's the same with location and with rotation. So we're going to go to frame 20, and we're going to do size. Okay, and we're going to grow it, and then we're going to do I, insert key for scale. Okay, and then again, we see it like this. Now just to show you that these can move in opposite directions, we'll add another object, a mesh sphere. Okay, and in this case, we're going to again lock it, I, its scale, except here we're going to make it smaller over time. So here we'll go to frame 20, and then S, and make it smaller. And then we're going to lock its rotation, or its scale. Okay, you can also see here that now the object, which we've been looking at as sphere and cube, also has a number attached to it. And that's the cube at state, or at frame 20. Okay, so as we go down, the sphere is getting bigger, the cube is getting smaller. And now we're gonna animate it first. By the way, this is the start of the animation, and this is the end of the animation. Since we stopped at 20, if you just click 20, then that means that Blender knows that there's nothing after 20, and it'll stop there. Okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to animate it. Okay. Actually, if I know right away that I'm going to save it as a movie, here's what I do. I change this JPEG, which we've been saving our pictures as, and in this case I'm going to pick a different image type. QuickTime, AVI, these are different movie formats, whereas these are still picture formats. Anyways, let's use AVI RAW. QuickTime might work if you have Quick Player, but for this case I'm going to use AVI RAW. Okay. Now over here is where it's going to output it to. So if I change this, this is in my temporary, but if I go into my Blender class folder, I set up a new folder called Blender Render. And the reason why it's good to have a rendering folder is it's going to put, in this case, 20 pictures, new pictures that it's going to use for the movie. And I don't want that becoming mixed up with all of my images that I'm using as textures. So I'm going to go within the Blender window, and then I'm going to select that as the output pictures. Okay. Now when I animate it, the first thing it's going to do, just like before, is it's going to figure every picture as it gets smaller, bigger. The other one's going to get smaller. Okay, and so on and so forth. So one's growing, the other is shrinking. I know these are going to collide. I could see that when I was working with the sphere. Notice now that you can see the shadow changes with each one because the light is different. And this is going to go all the way up. It's also moving slower, if you notice, and that's because we're doing more stuff. We've got two objects and what have you. So this is going to take a little bit of time. It's going to go all the way to frame 20, which is where I told it to stop right here. Okay, so as this gets bigger, the incredible growing cube and the incredible shrinking sphere. What it's also doing is, in addition to saving each of these as JPEGs, it's creating a movie. And so 17, 18, you can see here it figures each of them in parts, and that's why you can kind of see it kind of choppily growing. It figures each region separately. 19 and then 20. Okay, so it'll stop after it gets to 20 because I told it to, and there it is. Okay, so now I can close this. If I hit play, it just does it in Blender's own window. So here, it kind of just shows me what it is that I created. But notice here it's an AVI instead of a JPEG. And if I were to look in my Blender class, and now this new thing I call Blender Render, I'll see I've got this video, an AVI video. Okay, now this can be opened by anything. I can open this with Microsoft Movie Maker, and if I launch it from here, notice it doesn't launch it using Blender because it doesn't think that this is a Blender file anymore. It'll, in this case, launch it with Microsoft's Media Player, and this depends on what kind of player you have at home. Now, you can send me any format. If it's not in a format that I can use, then I'll just convert it. But so here's my new movie that I've made, and I've exported it as an AVI, and so now I can play it over and over to my heart's content.